Karibuni na asanteni kwa kuwa nasi. Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for being with us. I'm seeing an exclamation mark on the LinkedIn distribution, so I don't know if we are showing on LinkedIn, but that is a problem we will solve another time, not at the moment. Mama Khanyisile, it is good to have you with me today. We have been trying to do this broadcast for a couple of weeks. We're finally here and we're going to get it done. And this is how we move, right? If we can't do it now, we will do it whenever we are ready. So a few weeks ago, on June 19th and 20th, a community of our fellow Ubuntu Africans came together in Malawi and decided to put together a tribunal to essentially indict the IMF and the World Bank, to bring forth testimonies from African people of how they have been affected, the negative ways they've been affected by the IMF and the World Bank and its practices and activities. And then from all that evidence, to put together a verdict to determine whether the IMF is guilty and what it's guilty of, and the World Bank, or whether they're not. And the verdict was guilty. So today we're going to break down what transpired on that day as much as we can recollect, and then also what actually is the role of the IMF and the World Bank and how they negatively affect the lives of Ubuntu within the continent of Africa and outside the continent of Africa, including Haiti, places like that. So, Mama Khanyisile, happy to have you here. My name is Nduku. I am the host on Kumbukeni. We are here to reclaim our narratives, to counter the false narratives that Western entities are constantly in the practice of putting out, including villainizing African Stream, right? That's one of the false narrative. African Stream is not a terrorist organization. It was not working with the Russians, but this is what we do. We come out and say this is not true. This is actually what's happening. And we tell our stories from our own perspective. The time of the white man telling our stories is gone. So we are reclaiming them. Mama Khanyisile, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Ndugu. It feels like there's an echo, so I don't know if my Wi-Fi is...
You sound good. I don't hear the echo.
Okay. Thank you, Ndugu. Yes, indeed. We have tried to do this for the last 5 weeks, I think, since the tribunal, actually.
Yeah.
And I am just grateful to our ancestors that it is finally happening. And I think I want to believe that spiritual timing is the best timing. So it is happening at an opportune time. Thank you for having me. And hello to all the Kumbukeni subscribers. I am Dr. Khanyisile Litchfield-Tshabalala. I always hurry to tell people the only reason I did my doctorate was that when I walk into what we call in South Africa a room of clever blacks, they don't say, who's this? And when you tell them patriarchy is not African, they don't say, who are you to tell us? It is the only reason I did my doctorate. Otherwise, I don't want to deceive anyone listening. I did not learn anything about Ubuntu, as Nduku calls us. Didn't learn anything about Ubuntu and our people from my undergrad through my honors. In South Africa, we have what is called honors before your masters. Through to my PhD, I was never taught the self-esteem that every African needs to have. I had to learn that on the side. Thank you, Nduku, for having me.
Yeah. So I guess we can start by going through the steps. There was one testimony, right? There was a testimony from Malawi that revealed real life destruction caused by the IMF. There was a loan that was given, right? About $50 million loan, and correct me if I'm wrong, for a bridge that was never built. And we've talked about John Perkins, and he reveals that what happens is they send economic hitmen, the United States, through the different factions that represent them, because that is who essentially we're talking about, the United States government, the IMF, the World Bank, that is who they are representing. For those of you who think they are international entities, they're not. And you can go back to Bretton Woods when they were founded to confirm this if you have any doubt. who was leading that conversation, who was controlling the dynamics, and who has taken over the economy since. So what they do is they send an economic hitman to the country, to the government, to the minister who's in charge of whatever it is that they are pursuing. And they sit down with them and they say, we think you should build this, right? In this case, Malawi, a bridge. But we're going to give you money to build it, but you can only use our company, right? And then the leader might say, no, we want to have competitive opportunity. We need to ask the Japanese, we need to ask the Chinese what their prices is. That economic hitman then will say, this is a one chance opportunity. My buddy over there, the jackal, is going to come if you don't accept, right? And that's when they send the CIA entity. So essentially, African people have no choice in the matter. They are being instructed and they must accept. But what happens also in these cases is the economic hitman, to sweeten the deal, tells the leader, you and your family can have access to this. You will have this much money. Your children can go to Yale, to Harvard, to this and that. So what I'm trying to say is the IMF and the World Bank, through its activities, encourages corruption, right, Mama Khanyisile? And therefore, the reason why money would be given and a bridge is not built. So let's talk about that with Malawi in mind and the testimony about the situation with the Malawi loan.
You know, my sister Nduku, that was a 3-day tribunal. And because I was a speaker, actually, I was one of the witnesses. There are some sessions that I lost. Maybe I would have been concentrating on my actual testimony, or maybe I was out for that moment using the bathroom. I don't remember that particular incident, and I'm glad we are citing it though, because the testimonies against the IMF and the World Bank in that tribunal were so many that you latched on essentially to what made sense to you at the time. For me, what stood out greatly about Malawi in that tribunal is how the IMF and the Slant World Bank, I never name one without the other, even if the one that would have done the action is one, because they work together. How the IMF and World Bank asked Malawi to deregulate their currency in 2012, and then asked them to deregulate it again last year, November. Now, I didn't have time to refresh those two stats, but if you put both of them together, I know that it is by just under 100%. That's between 2012 and 2025. Now, that's about what? 13 years? Yeah. Which Western country is going to allow its currency to be deregulated in a span of 13 years by almost 100%? And for people who are listening, struggling with the term deregulate, it essentially means lower the rate of your currency vis-a-vis the dollar. And when it is lowered vis-a-vis the dollar, automatically it is vis-a-vis the euro, it is vis-a-vis the pound. Why is that important? Because in neoliberalism, they force you into a system that makes your economy to be dependent on forex, or what we call foreign currency. This is where the term dollarization comes in. You tie your economy through your currency to the dollar. That's why we call it the dollarized economy. How does that happen? My sister Ndugu, allow me 2 minutes or so to explain.
No, take your time, please. Take your time.
See, once you enter into the current capitalist system, which is called neoliberalism, which is fundamentally different from Adam Smith's capitalism. We can come to him. Let's park him aside for now. It's fundamentally different. Capitalism, as we know it today, is neoliberalism or imperialist capitalism. It is not what Adam Smith advocated under free markets and how you should work hard and you can pull yourself out of the class in which you were born. No, park that aside. Maybe we'll come back to it. Let's deal with where we are. Neoliberalism, in essence, says any government, that includes the US government, any government is nothing but a post office between capital and the people. Let's explain capital. Capital is any transnational, multinational companies, because your small and medium term, they are just operating under the ethics of what is set for by transnational and multinational, which is what the economic economic hitman is talking about in the book Ndoku just cited. So if government then is a capital between the people, sorry, is a post office between the people and capital, it means it does not matter who is in government. As long as they are following a neoliberal system, they are not getting anybody out of poverty. They are not getting anyone out of global racism. They are not getting anyone out of inequality. Why? Because if you are a post office between capital and the people, it means your master is not the people who voted for you, but capital. You answer to capital. You are just a messenger of capital. Two, any government, that's neoliberalism, any government is there to deregulate. What does it mean? To pass economic policies and laws that favor capital over the people. That's why South Africa from time to time is deemed unsafe or unfriendly for investment, because the government is not deregulating. It is not reining in workers. There's too much trade unionism. Your trade unions have got too much power. They dictate too much phrases like a living wage, like workers deserve this. No, capital does not want that. Deregulate, which means we don't want too many regulations that control capital. We want a free flow of capital. Again, under neoliberalism, when you adopt that system, as I said, your currency will devaluate. Why? Because when you adopt that system, it's called macroeconomics. It means you need transnational companies who have been at this from 1400, some of them, to come and plant foreign currency in your system. I'm simplifying this as much as I can. Why do you need that foreign currency? Because when you adopt neoliberalism, by default, you are going to deindustrialize, meaning what? Your local companies are going to die. They are going to sink under the weight of the foreign companies, which you need because you need that forex, that foreign currency, because you've gone and tied your economy to the dollar, by default to the pound and the euro. Now you need that dollar, which you don't have. You have the kwacha, you have the euro, you have the Kenya shillings, you have the rand. Now to get it, you need those companies to come and invest. And for them to invest, they need you to deregulate so that you are deemed friendly for investment. Can you see that this is a vicious cycle? So it means as government, you operate to please business or capital or transnational corporations, not your people. So you will deregulate, you will deindustrialize. Why deindustrialize? Because your local companies, as I say, cannot compete with the muscle of these companies. Some of them have been running from 1400, when Europe came out of the Dark Ages and they went through the first industrial revolution. So they have muscle. That's why if you look at South Africa, for instance, now we are on the second aspect of forced deindustrialization. If you look at South Africa, my sister Nduku, before 1994, the Nationalist Party government was running what you would call a state interventionist economic policy. The rand in the height of the 80s, I say the height of the 80s because that was the height of the struggle to ban apartheid, to boycott South Africa. They were suffering even spot boycotts. But the rand was 1 to a dollar. If it dwindled, it would be 1 rand 30 cents, 1 rand 40 cents. Now the rand is 1 to 18. It dwindles sometimes. And it was at its lowest when 9/11 happened. How does that affect us? They were attacking America, but it's because our economy is tied to the dollar. Now, When we look at the textile industry, remember, I'm bringing you back, we are talking de-industrialization, forced de-industrialization. When you look at us before 94, look at the textile industry alone. Around 2005, the contribution of the textile industry to the GDP was higher than the tech contribution in 2023. It was at 0 point something. It's dwindled. We have shut down the textile industry in South Africa. If you drive in Cape Town, from Cape Town all the way to Rondebosch, you are passing areas like Woodstock, Salt River, Observatory, Mowbray. Those were textile factories. You should just take the drive now and see the decay. If you go to Johannesburg, from New Canada, those who use the train from Soweto, from New Canada all the way to Johannesburg Station, past Johannesburg Station, we are talking areas of Doronfontein, GP, those were factories and firms producing South African products, some of them. Textile industry, all shut down. You look at a country like Nigeria, same textile industry. It's dwindled from employing 500,000 workers to employing less than 20,000 workers, and it is projected by 2030 that it will shut down entirely. Now, that's why we call it forced deindustrialization. For me to get a product in South Africa now that's written made in South Africa is much more difficult than it was during apartheid. How ironic is that? Really, how sarcastic can that be? You will de-industrialize, my sister, not because you like, but because your local industry shall not compete with the force of the muscle of the capital that is coming in. The third thing that will happen is that you will be enrolled and tied into the international financial and monetary system without the necessary protective laws, if we may call it that. What do I mean? I mean European governments, because they gained so much muscle out of these companies when they were formed in the 14th century. And when they were formed in the 14th century, remember, a lot of them started off as chartered companies. Your Dutch East India Company, your English East India Company, your Danish East India Company. I mean, countries in Europe you never thought would have had them. The Danish had them, the Swedish had them. Why are these companies necessary? They were chartered companies, meaning what? They were sanctioned by the royal families of Europe at that time to go and look for economic opportunities for the citizens of those countries and for the government. A lot of them were chartered, and they were even given powers to colonize, to kill, to maim in the interest of capital. So obviously the governments benefited from those chartered companies. It still works the same. Transnational corporations today, or transnational companies, you look at the name and you know where they belong. Shell, we know, is owned by the Royal Dutch family. So obviously Shell will benefit Netherlands people. Somehow, kickbacks, they will benefit. British Petroleum, BP, we know, will benefit the British people. Touch BP and you will see which government is going to stand up in defense of the British, of BP. Now, when you do that, you say, even if the pound is in the international system, if anything wrong happens to the pound, they will get a bailout from the British government because it has got enough muscle to can protect its companies. If anything happens to Shell, the Netherlands or Dutch government will bail them out. It happens all the time. We see America bailing out American companies. We even cry and we say, if something happens with me, nobody bails me out. We can't bail out our companies. We can't bail out our forex. We can't bail out our monetary systems because we don't have that muscle. The opposite is actually true. We depend on a currency that we do not have, at whose mercy we are for those same transnational companies and European governments to plant that currency in our countries. So if the rand dwindles and falls, We don't have the muscle in South Africa to bail it out. If a South African company dwindles and falls, we don't have the muscle to bail it out. That's why when I was in Malawi during that tribunal, because of what we cited in terms of devaluation of the kwacha in a span of 13 years by almost 100%, people were queuing for sugar, my sister, ordinary sugar. There were queues for sugar in Malawi. How do you ask a government to devalue a currency a year before elections? That happened in November. Malawi is going to elections this year. Meaning what? Meaning they will pump, meaning people don't have money. So what's going to happen? Meaning the West will pump funds into a candidate that they favor in Malawi to win elections because everybody does not have money. So we've gone over three things. I think I'm going to stop there and allow you to just come back. We have looked at neoliberalism that ties you into an international monetary system without the necessary safeguards.
Mm-hmm.
Looked at how, because of that, you are going to be forced to deindustrialize. We have looked at when you deindustrialize, you're going to be forced to devalue your currency, or we call it devaluate. We've looked at three things thus far, but we've also looked at how at the political side of it, they force you then as a government to be just a mere post office between your people and capital. So half the time when you promise people I'll do this, you're lying, because if capital says no, you will not deliver those things.
Yeah.
So I think I'll pause and allow you a comeback.
And just to let you all know what the verdict was. The verdict was guilty. The IMF and the World Bank were found guilty, and other multi-international financial institutions were found, because the banks are there. And for those of you, and I'm going to put the title again in the chat, who want to understand this, and Africans, please stop it. Please stop upholding ignorance. Please stop making excuses to not get the knowledge that is needed for us to liberate ourselves, for us to move forward in a way that is going to be foolproof from being co-opted by these entities. We have to acquire knowledge. We have to read. We have to hear what those who witnessed have to say, and then we have to take the lessons from them and implement now. How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney is a must, and I will say again, a must read for all Africans. For those of you who don't have the money to buy the book, Kumbukeni was given the permission by Patricia Rodney, Walter Rodney's widow, to read all the chapters on Kumbukeni. So they're available on Kumbukeni. That experience I have opined includes my opinions, right? So that's what you'll experience, but very useful opinions and an analysis of what Walter was telling us. So you as an African who's listening to me now, who has other Africans in your network, have no excuse not to understand the true situation in Africa. You have no excuse. I have given you the book, one book. I didn't tell you go read many, one book. And I said, for those of you who cannot read because reading is not your thing, or who cannot read because you can't afford the book, those videos of all the chapters of that book are on Kumbukeni. No excuse. And I'm saying it's a must, because this is what is going to help you understand what our enemies are truly doing and who our enemies are. So the verdict was that they were found guilty of economic warfare, recolonization through debt, and crimes against humanity through the different testimonies. I'm going to go ahead and also add to what Mama Khanyisile said by breaking down the consequences of devaluing your currency. So the first consequences is you lose, and some of them Mama Khanyisile mentioned, you lose purchasing power. What does that mean? What are the consequences? Imports become more expensive. And you're forced to take imports, by the way. Imports become more expensive, including critical items like medicine, fuel, machinery, and food. Ordinary citizens experience a sharp decline in living standards. Local currency savings lose value. So your savings loses value, wiping out the middle class and lower classes' wealth. Second, inflation and soaring prices. Consequences: your food and fuel prices skyrocket. For the Kenyans who are on the street talking about Ruto must go, and I keep telling you that is not the source of your problem. This is what I'm talking about. Ruto has been instructed. Ruto has been paid to do what he's doing. He's not operating alone. He is doing the service and the business of the imperialists. So your food and fuel prices skyrocket. It triggers mass unrest. Kenya is a perfect example right now. Wages typically stagnate while the cost of living rises. Again, Kenya will be our poster child today, Mama Khanyisile. Basic goods become unaffordable to the majority, worsening poverty and inequality. Third one, the loss of national monetary sovereignty. So the central bank loses its ability to control exchange rates and interest rates in the national interest. So who's controlling your exchange rates? The United States. There's a reason why Kenyans always, when we talk about exchange rate, we compare it to the dollar. You never compare it to anything else but the dollar. I call it the dollarization of Africa, the dollarization of Kenya, which is what it is. Speculators can cause capital flight. And guess who the speculators are? Wazungu, right? The same people who put you in the situation are the ones speculating. And then foreign interests increasingly dictate economic direction. So like Mama Khanyisile said, those multinationals, those cooperatives, international cooperatives that come and organizations that come in your countries now are the ones dictating the way Kenya is going to move, the way all the other 53 African nations are going to move economically. Your sovereignty is gone. You have no control over your economics. So when I see Kenyans, when I see Africans talking about, the way we can build our economies, we need to start investing as individuals. You are just you're a pimple. I was recently told about this, someone, I forget the elder who said that. You're a pimple in the grand scheme of everything that's happening. You're insignificant. You who's investing while all of this is happening is completely insignificant. You will invest and find yourself in the same cycle of witnessing protests. Because foreign entities are dictating your economic direction. So here goes an example, right? A couple of years ago, we wanted to start bringing African clothing to the United States. We are grounded in Ubuntu and grounded in the concept of supporting Black business, African business. So we wanted to use a Kenyan business that was African. We reached for shipping. We reached out to them. The quote was so high, we couldn't afford it. And because we couldn't afford it, we had to reach out to DHL. When we reached out to DHL, the cost was much lower for the same thing. And you stop and ask yourself, why is the DHL cost lower? The DHL is not experiencing the expenses that the Kenyan entity is experiencing because the DHL is the foreign entity and it's probably not paying taxes or all the other costs that the Kenyan entity will pay. So you, no matter how much you invest, are operating in an unfair system of economics. The fourth consequence, collapse of local industries. You get cheap, often subsidized foreign goods flood the market. This is evident everywhere on the continent. Local producers, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, cannot compete, and they end up closing. Mass layoffs and de-industrialization occur, leading to long-term economic dependency. And just in case you thought this was a problem only on the continent, my Black people, my fellow Wana Ubuntu in the United States, this is happening in your Black communities as well. There's a reason why you don't see Black businesses in your communities. And when you see them, they're in and out, closing. Every time they come in, they're closing. They have to compete with, what are the businesses that I can't mention now because I will be, what's the word? Cancelled, because we are living in a cancel culture. The fifth consequences, mass employment and social unrest. Kenya, mass employment and social unrest. The government jobs are cut. That's a conditionality of the IMF and the World Bank. You cannot hire. This happened just recently in Kenya, where the loan that they're trying to get, that was one of the conditionalities. Cut government jobs, which adds to the crisis. Urban migration increases. People are moving to the city because they're suffering, creating informal settlements and slums. The slums in Kenya have increased to a ridiculous point. When I was home recently, it was like buildings on top of buildings is the situation in Nairobi. Political instability rises, including protests, riots, and weakened governments. The Kenyan government right now is not a government. It's a joke of a government. Number 6, favoring of foreign investors and elites, right? Speculative short-term investment replaces long-term development. Local elites aligned with foreign capital benefit disproportionately. That first one. There's a project right now in Kenya, and I think, Mama Khanyisile, you have it right in South Africa as well. They're promoting, I forget what they're calling this type of building. So the international company is producing like very cheap walls pre-manufactured and cheap floors and everything to build your house quickly, right? But they're not sustainable. This is what is happening. Local elites aligned with foreign capital benefit disproportionately. Sovereignty is traded for loans and foreign confidence. Externalization of economic control. Please bear with us. We're going to need to break this down. It's going to take some time, so be patient. Externalization of economic control. Consequences. Economic decisions increasingly serve creditor nations and global corporations. So this is why you're seeing African leaders, misleaders, I am calling them now, African misleaders, getting in planes and going to the US, going to the UK. This is why you're seeing that, because that's who's going to tell them how they're going to move economically. National development plans are subordinated to debt repayment and market conformity. And we learned through how the Confessions of an Economic Hitman that from the point of offering the loan, they know you're not going to be able to pay it. It's structured that way. They know you're not going to be able to pay it because they ensure the conditionalities do not allow you to build your economy in order to repay it. If these people were in the business of helping, therefore aiding us, and then allowing us to repay so that we can rebuild, they would not have conditionalities. They would not have conditionalities that would stagnate our economy, making us unable to repay the loans that they give us, and therefore keeping us in a cycle of debt, right? And we are focused now on repaying debt, which we have not realized cannot be paid, instead of investing in our people's well-being, schools, education, health, good food in your nation. We're not investing in that. We're busy paying up the United States, who's already taking money from our nation. Development becomes aid and loan dependent rather than self-determined. Number 8, brain drain and capital flight. There's a reason why I am speaking to you from the United States. I am part of the brain drain. My brain now needs to serve the continent, which is my decision that I made. And I'm doing it from here, but serving the continent and serving my people. But my plea to those of you who are still on the continent is do not look to the West for education. What we need to do is come together and resolve and change the education system on our continent so that it can serve our people, so that it can teach them the skills that are needed to build within our continent. Enough of looking to the West, enough of looking to the Middle East. And I do understand that we have financial needs at the moment that need to be fulfilled. But this constant draining of the brain is going to continue if we don't stop and serve our nations. Educated citizens immigrate, reducing the nation's intellectual capital. Foreign currencies hoarded and transferred abroad by the rich. The state loses future capacity for development because most of its people who are educated and skilled have left. That's it from me, Khanyisile. So let's talk about your testimony. Give us a brief summary of your testimony, or as much as you want to share, and then also the testimonies that you remember, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, my sister. Yeah, I hope people were writing notes when you gave that elaborate after effects, because what you dealt with are the after effects of neoliberalism. My testimony basically covered the 6 points that I am sharing, and I've already shared 3. That when you adopt this type of capitalism that's called neoliberalism, you will be forcibly integrated into the international financial or monetary system without the necessary safeguards. And I gave the example, which means when their currency devaluates, yours devaluates too. And you feel it more because you are not producing and you are poorer than them. But also it means you are tying your currency and economy to the dollar, which gives Trump the right to talk to you and not with you. I'm not going to go over it because I've covered it in the first segment. The second thing that will happen is that your currency will get devalued because it is always pitted vis-a-vis the dollar, and it can never be higher than the dollar, and by default will never be higher than the pound and the euro. The third thing is that we are going to go through what is called forced de-industrialization. The fourth point I covered in my testimony is that when these 3 things have happened, the fourth thing that will happen is that you are going to be an economy that is based on importing forex. That's why when our presidents talk, they're always talking to you about direct foreign investment, DFI. We need direct foreign investment. We need direct foreign investment. We can't anger these companies. No, we can't talk to Trump like that. We need Al Gore. We can't talk to Britain like that because they need foreign direct investment because our economies are based on importing forex. We need that forex so we can buy these goods that we stopped producing because now, which is the fifth thing, we are importing more than we are exporting because we have deindustrialized. We are no longer producing. But sadly, even in the importation that we are doing, we are importing more raw material than finished products because we have deindustrialized. So the scourge continues of us being importers of raw material and exporters of the finished product. So, sorry, we are exporting. No, English is like that. When you import, you're taking it in, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so then I'm correct. Yeah, you are importers of the raw material, but you are exporting the finished product.
No,
And
it's the other way. We are exporting. They take the raw materials from us,
yeah,
don't allow us to manufacture, and then they sell us the finished product. We import.
so you're importing. Okay. So number 5, then let's correct it for the listeners. So what will happen after you are an importer of a forex, which means you are taking in forex, that's what you need. What's going to happen is that you are going to be exporting more than you are importing. Ne? Ndugu.
No, importing more than you're exporting. So you will be
Oh,
getting
you're
goods
getting,
from
yeah,
outside.
yeah. You're buying more than you're receiving.
Exactly.
Jesus, yeah.
Exactly. And that's a
So
high
you're
cost.
exporting more than you're importing.
No, you're
No, you're
importing more.
importing more than you're exporting. Yes.
You're bringing in from these foreign
Yes,
nations
which
more
means
than
you are,
your yes, yes,
yes.
yes.
And the sad thing is, even what you are exporting out is more raw material than a finished product. And then you are importing that finished product at an exorbitant price of the forex that you need. When all of that happens, is that you are going to have an economy that is growing, but it does not translate to bread and butter. Haven't you read the stats? They tell you our economy has grown by 3%. Our economy has grown by 4%. They even set the target. The economy must grow between 2025 and 2026 financial year by 3.4%. And they reach the target most of the time. And then they pat themselves on the back and they say the economy has grown, but you have not seen the difference. In fact, prices have gone up, fuel has gone up. Sometimes your taxation has even gone up, your pay as UN, you are paying more taxes. Yeah, the economy is growing, but we are not seeing any difference. In fact, when the economy is growing, no one should tell you. You should see it in your purse. The difference of what you are buying today and what you are buying next year should not be less and less. If for a rand, I could buy 3 items this year, why by next year this time I'm only buying 1.5 items of the 3 items? It means the economy is growing, but not in my favor. It's growing for transnational corporations. It's growing for big business. They are the ones who are making profit and seeing the difference. But for me, it does not mean anything. So for me, that was the testimony. It was those 6 principles, I think, which we will go over again. The first one is, when you adopt neoliberalism, you're going to be tied without the necessary safeguards into the international financial and monetary system. I cannot overemphasize this, which is why we have dollarized economies. That's why we beg Trump, and Trump can talk to us and not with us. That's why Trump can wake up and say, I'm going to slap 10% tariffs on all BRICS countries. And maybe Russia can stand up to that. Maybe China, South Africa can't. Any African country in BRICS now, and I think we are the only one thus far. You can't stand up against that, actually. You need to beg him because you need Alcoa. And you need Alcoa because you have a dollarized economy. And when you do that, you are going to forcefully deindustrialize. You are going to forcefully have a devalued currency. You are going to forcefully have an economy that imports forex. You need more forex to come into your country because you have deindustrialized. So you are now getting all these foreign goods that you need forex to buy. When you do that also, you are going to continue being an exporter of raw material and an importer of finished products, which means your people cannot afford. So the goods are there, but they are not produced locally, so they are expensive. And then the last thing that's going to happen is that you're going to have an economy that is growing, but it's not growing for your people. So that's where the phrase comes in: the rich become richer and the poor become poorer. Now, let's break it down and make it practical. When you are an exporter of raw material and you import a finished product, you do realize that Starbucks on an average day makes more money. Any branch of Starbucks anywhere in the world makes more money than the actual coffee growers in Burundi, in Malawi, in Tanzania, in Ethiopia, wherever coffee beans are produced. Anybody that buys a slab of Kit Kat or Cadbury is making Cadbury more richer than the actual cocoa bean growers anywhere in Africa. I don't wear gold. People always laugh at me. And I've been married for 24 years now. I don't wear gold. I don't own any gold item in my closet. But South Africa is a gold producing country. And I do that because right from how multinationals are paying the gold miners is peanuts compared to what they would pay another gold miner in the West. We'll come back to that. Please don't forget that conversation. Now, let's take it back to neoliberalism. Because we are exporting a raw material of gold. I mean, we even see it in the 7 o'clock news in South Africa. It's called Prime News. It's stacked in little blocks, 4-cornered blocks. Where is it going? It's going to England. Where does it do in England? What does it do in England? Sorry. It produces what I have termed more scientific and technical jobs, which is what? That's where it will get melted, it will get shaped, it will get melted, it will get shaped, it will get to be packaged, it will get to be sent back through, I don't even know those shops because I don't use them, but I think there's one called American Swiss, etc., etc. You know, these shops where you walk into and you can buy a 19 carat. I don't even know the carats because I don't use it. I think there's a 9, there's a 19, and it goes up. You're going to buy that ring, that necklace, that whatever as a finished product. You actually are going to pay about 7 or 8 times for your own gold, more than an average British citizen pays for it in London, because they are not saddled with the costs that you are saddled with as a South African, of taking it there, of having it being shaped, melted, shaped, and packaged there and sent back, and including the rent of the shop where you are buying it in, whatever mall you are buying it in South Africa. You are all those costs. Remember, it's capitalism. It's a system that's based on profit. All those costs are factored in when you buy that 18 karat gold ring or that 18 karat necklace. I don't play that game. That's why I don't wear it. I rather wear the beads and just support the women in the market. So that's the danger of being an exporter of a raw material and an importer of a finished product, in that while you have that raw material, it does not translate into wealth, either for your government or for the citizens involved. It makes somebody else richer because they turn it into a finished product than it makes you rich. I mean, it also gives a false notion of product ownership, if I can call it that. People say Swiss chocolate, Belgian chocolate. I mean, what is that? They don't have coffee beans. They don't have cocoa beans. That comes from Africa. But they've become more popular than the actual origin of that raw material, that coffee or cocoa bean, because they've turned it into a finished product that people salivate after. Lind, is very expensive. So Lind makes more money than the actual source or the origin of that cocoa or coffee bean. So I think I'll leave it here again, Dugu, and just bring it back to you. So for me, really, before I give it back to you, I'm not fazed by people telling me the economy is growing. The question you should ask is growing for who? It's growing, yes, but for who?
I agree. And it's always upsetting to see these suit-wearing Africans talking about it. These capitalist Africans repeating that statement and exposing the idiocy of their thinking, because, like you said, if your economy is growing, why do you have suffering people in your nation? Like, if you cannot upgrade your intelligence to that point where you ask yourself that question, if my economy is growing in my nation, why is it not reflected in the lifestyles of the people? And we're not talking about the elites, because you elites like to just look at your Muthaiga, Karen neighborhoods, Runda neighborhoods, and you don't see Kibera, you don't see Buruburu, you don't see all the other Dagoreti, all the other neighborhoods that are suffering, right? Because you can drive by them. You can close your windows when they try to take your watch or your cell phone. And you can keep moving and come back to your fancy house and your walk-in closet. But your economy is not growing as long as you have protests in Kenya. As long as you have a massive group of people coming on the streets and saying, I'm suffering, I cannot get a job, your economy is not growing. Doesn't matter how much the United States says Kenya is one of the growing economies, Rwanda is one of the growing economies. For, again, Mama Khanyisile, you said, for who? For the United States. And it makes sense that the colonialist oppressor would praise the Negro who's helping him increase the size of his pocket. It makes absolute sense. Why would the oppressor praise you if you're taking money out of his pocket?
Yeah.
Why would the oppressor praise Traore?
Actually, I'm glad you said Traore, the spirit works.
Go on, thank you.
In mysterious ways. I was speaking to Burkinabe people when I was in Burkina Faso when was I there? April and early May, late
In
April
May,
to early May. And they were telling me, before, it used to break our hearts to know that we don't have Kentucky, we don't have McDonald's, we don't have, what are these chain shops? Panarotti.
The UK one. Don't forget the UK one. Don't forget what they're called. But yes.
It used to break our hearts, and we would be like, we are so underdeveloped. And then they say, when Sangara came, our eyes started opening. They cut his regime short. Then Traore came, and as he's explaining this to us, and the young people are saying, we get it, actually. We are blessed we don't have those chain shops. Because for starters, the food they sell gives you hypertension, diabetes, high blood pressure, gives you a heart disease. I mean, it's unhealthy food cooked with unhealthy fat. That's why it's called fast food. It's not food you should be relying on to eat on a daily basis. So they don't have that. So in Ouagadougou, when I said I want fast food, I mean, I want food cooked by a woman, which is grilled guinea fowl, chicken. Yes, chips are there, but I mean, at least it's locally made by this woman who does not have a place to keep that fat for 1 week. In some of these places we buy, McDonald's and whatever, do you even know how many times they change the fat of what they fry those chips of yours in? You don't know. That what's selling by the street is forced to spill that oil out every day and get a new oil, actually, because it does not have the big containers to keep it. He has no shop, for starters. So I like that about Burkina Faso. And I was just like, okay, I'm juxtaposing this to a story I'm also going to tell, especially for South Africans listening. My daughter brought a friend home from university. She's American. She uses particular cosmetics, like every woman, you have your own brand. And she had since stocked her brand in the US, Nduku. She's from Oregon. And then she was in Italy for over a year or close to a year. She hadn't gone home and she couldn't find it anywhere in Italy. Mind you, Italy is in the EU. She couldn't find the product. My daughter brought her home for December. Can I tell you, she found those, she bought them like she must have bought in half a suitcase of those products. She found them at Discam, she found them at Checkers, she found them at Clicks. I mean, they're all over our shelves in South Africa. And she was like, wow, this is a good thing. South Africa, it means you have an open market. No, it's not a good thing. Because in South Africa, you can walk into a shop, truth be told, and say, I want shampoo made in Italy. I want a dye that does not cause cancer. It doesn't have, there's this product that they put in hair dye that causes cancer. Italy apparently was the first country to come with a dye that does not cause cancer. I struggled to find it in Rome. I was there for 3 weeks. I could not see it. In South Africa, it's right there in all the health shops.
Deregulation.
Yes, it is there in all the health shops. You will find it. So that's what happens. But please understand, I told this story to come to this conclusion. For every foreign product, whether cosmetic, whether food, whether furniture, whether whatever, that you find on the shelves of your country, it has happened at the expense of a local product. Meaning, my daughter's friend could find her brand of American products wherever in South Africa, meaning there is a Nduku that cannot get into the cosmetic industry to produce local African products with our local herbal products because she cannot compete with the muscle of the company that produces those products that are American, which are found all over our shelves. So that's how it kills your industry. But it also denies you of health because now we have this influx in South Africa of all these products from clothing to food to furniture that aren't ours. Why can't I walk into Discam and buy umhlonyane? Umhlonyane, it is a traditional medicine for us in South Africa. It's a herb, actually. It's even wrong to say medicine. It's a herb that you use for flu, influenza, but you also just cleanse your system. Why can't I walk there and buy umhlonyane? But I can. If I do walk there and buy umhlonyane, and they have, it's already packaged, liquidified, and things have been added that have got no bearing on umhlonyane. But me, I can't put umhlonyane on the shelves of Discam because I cannot compete with the other things that are on Discam shelves that are used for immunity, for flu, for whatever. You understand? It has got such a ripple effect. In fact, this thing is the continuation of slavery by other means. That's why we call it neoliberalism. Neocolonialism is neoliberalism because it keeps you where you are without the colonial soldier and the colonial administrator being there. I think I'll bring it back to you, Nduku. And I actually cut you in because you were still talking.
No, you're good. I'm glad you went there. I'm happy. And this includes China as well, right? This includes China as well because there's no reason why we should be buying African fabric from China. Most of the African fabric right now is Chinese made.
I know.
There's no reason at all. And they destroyed that industry. And we are over here talking about China is the better oppressor, right? Or they are not the oppressor. No. If it is not African, it is not good.
Wait, sorry, I'm going to cut you again.
Go on. No, I'm glad I'm triggering the thoughts. Thank you. That's the point.
In South Africa, we have a name for it, actually. These things made in China, South Africans call them Fong Kongs. So we call them Fong Kong. Yeah, you buy it cheap, but it lasts you 3 to 4 months. So in a year, you've bought the same product like 3 or 4 times. You could have just bought a locally made from a woman who will charge you at least half the price. When you look at the end of the year, you've bought that same thing 3 times. It's even more than you could have just bought in one thing of value one time. But because we keep people poor, people cannot afford, so they go for these Fong Kongs. But these Lama Fong Kong are the same ones that have destroyed the textile industry in South Africa. As you say, African print is now made in China. African attires are now made in China. Now they are in the shops. You know, you get them in the conventional shops. For people who buy at Edgar's in South Africa, by the way, Edgar's is British. It belongs to the transnational corporation called Edgar Dale. So because now they are being made in China, you're going to find them at Edgar's on a hanger, nicely, you know, ironed and pressed and steamed at more price than you're going to buy it at Mai. There is a market here called Mai, or you're going to buy it at Pretoria Zoo from the women who are selling outside, or from Nandi, Pasam Boutique, you know, on the side that Nduku runs on her own, you know, alone. She doesn't even have employees. So yeah, it's really a vicious cycle. It kills everything. It kills your health products, because now you are reliant on these neoliberal products that are really not meant to help.
And that we don't know what's in them.
Thank you.
We don't know what's in them. And it's been shown, like, for example, the vaccination we talked about with Dr. Wahome from Kenya, that it made women sterile. So if your oppressor, again, and I will call them the oppressor because that's who they are, if the evil entity of humanity is giving you medication and they see you as inhuman, they don't value your life, why do you think they will not put things there to destroy your life? Like, how are we continuing to eat from the oppressor's plate when we know they are oppressing us and their intent is to destroy us?
My sister, because actually the spirit just promised me to bring back the discussion to where we started. Because that's why we called them forced.
Exactly.
Integration into international monetary system, forced deregulation, forced devaluation of your currency, forced economy that is based on imports than exports. And those exports are mostly raw material, importing the finished product. That's why when that happens, it is a forced economic growth, but that does not translate into bread on the table for the citizen. Those things are forced because immediately you adopt neoliberalism. The IMF and the World Bank, the agents of the economic, they are the economic hitmen. They are not the agents, actually. The economic hitmen of Africa. They will come in and through annual reports assess your economy and release a report that tells you what you should do and what you should not do. And if you don't follow those recommendations, and I don't even know why we call them recommendations, they are prescripts. If you don't follow those prescripts, then it affects your ability to attract loans and debts, which is the seventh thing I covered. When all these others that I've covered happen, you will then need loans to survive because you need the forex. So you live on debt, but you will not get those loans if the IMF and World Bank annual report about your country is not favorable.
But
sometimes even goes and pours into the UN report, because the United Nations itself takes the IMF and World Bank report. So even the UN will not deem you favorable, which is what's affecting Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger at the moment. Because the IMF and World reports about them are not favorable. The UN reports about them are not favorable. So the AU cannot embrace them. So SADC, ECOWAS, EAC, and whoever can also not embrace them. So now we do what we call cancel culture. We strangulate you and make sure that we isolate you.
So we have embraced judgment from the oppressor. This is what we are living by. What does the oppressor think of me? This is how I'm going to move. So that the oppressor thinks of me in a favorable way. That's how I'm going to move. The eventual part of this conversation is talking about how to get out, right? And we'll talk about that. But I would like you to talk. And by the way, put a pin on that quickly. I'm going to say, you gave the example of Malawi where you saw lines of people waiting for sugar because there's low sugar, right? And they have aid, right? And they have these foreign entities in their nation. We have Burkina Faso. We have a friend who recently went. Dr. Kimoni was on Kumbukeni. For those of you who want to hear more about this, there's a broadcast about it. He said he saw brown sugar everywhere in Burkina because now they are manufacturing it within Burkina.
I was there, remember.
Thank
also
you.
For 2 weeks, I saw
Thank
brown
you.
sugar.
And that's evidence.
But also, Ndugu, my
Mm-hmm.
sister, we shouldn't even go there.
Mm-hmm.
Malawi produces sugar. No African country does not have sugar cane.
None.
The raw
Like it's
material.
everywhere.
It's everywhere. I mean, a simple thing as producing sugar from sugar cane, we can do.
No, we can. We can. But we've allowed the Mzungu and the Mchina and the Mwarabu to tell us not to. And then we've said, okay, Mzungu, here's the sugarcane. Go in your secret labs, your secret manufacturing places. I know you don't like me as a human being. And in fact, you don't see me as a human being. Process it. I'll buy whatever you give me. I don't even know what you're putting in it, but I'll buy it and I'll eat it. But I know that your innate nature through history has shown that you want to destroy me and my people. But I'll eat what you're making.
Do you know another example I remember? You said, as I remember them, I must just interject and share. Another example I remember was from Ghanaian testimony at the Tribunal.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Ghana pre-colonially produced its own soap, and they were big grower of potatoes. I hear sometimes we are told potatoes. No, we were taught by white people. When the English came, they didn't like that. They wanted Ghanaians to eat potatoes grown in England. So they came with a whole theory where they said Ghanaian soil cannot produce potatoes. And Ghanaians, after some time, started believing it. So the potato industry was shut down. So was the soap industry shut down by colonialism. And then someone else, a fool, an un-African, an un-Afrocentrist, an enemy of our people, a sellout really, will come and tell you someone whose soul is dead. It's just their body that is alive, and they should be doing us the favor of just dying, because it will be one less African who's fighting us, dying and being underground. That's where we are, because we are really tired of this. That same African will tell you, oh, but colonialism civilized us. That's why I say they belong 6 feet underground, really. Ancestors should just do us a favor and just take them, truly. I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back to you.
I'm putting it out here. I don't know if you can see my statement. I was quickly entering that statement because this is the standard. If you are aware of the entities that keep us oppressed and exploited, and you as a Mono Ubuntu still choose to work for them, you're a sellout. You're the worst type of human being. The difference is you have those of us who are ignorant, who were ignorant, because we've been miseducated. Those we welcome in, we educate, and then they have to pick. And if they pick this side, they are sellouts. They are our enemy. You have Wana Ubuntu who are in rooms witnessing the Wazungu plotting and planning, who know exactly what the intention is, who are told, I will pay you, your child can go to Yale if you allow us to do this. So they understand the dynamics and they still choose to work for the oppressor. You're a sellout. You're a coon. There's no apologizing for calling you that. No apologizing. I'm not being arrogant. I'm trying to have us understand logic. 1 + 1 is 2. It can never be 3. Right? Exactly. It's logic. You're a coon. You're a sellout. This is not about being funny. This is not about being arrogant. This is not about putting up words that will have you crack. Like, no, it is as simple as if you knowingly work with those who oppress your people, knowing what their intention is, you're a sellout and a betrayer of your people. So, Mama Khanyisile, quickly before we go to how we get out of this situation.
Yes, and we should, we should.
Yes, quickly. Yeah. So let's talk about the guilty verdict. Economic warfare, the charges, so that you can break them up. Economic warfare is one of them. Recolonization through debt is the second one. And then crimes against humanity. Let's break that down, because we are saying them, but let's show how.
Mm.
Economic warfare. I think you broke down the economic warfare.
Economic warfare is covered.
You've broken that
Second one,
down, immensely. So recolonization through debt. I think that one too you broke
it's
down.
covered also,
So
yes.
crimes against humanity. Let's break that down.
Crime against humanity, because look at Malawians queuing for sugar, but they produce sugar cane. Look at devaluing somebody's currency by almost 100% in 13 years. You are unleashing a generational setback. So people who had savings, the value of the savings is gone. People who were living on retired pension, the value is gone. You are making products scarce, like there's no sugar. So where there is sugar, you're allowing black market to creep in. So when a commodity is a daily use and it's scarce, the criminals will come in and they will start buying and stockpiling and selling it at exorbitant prices. So by default, you are leading to starvation. By default, you are exacerbating and increasing the poverty levels of those people. You are tampering with their development. In essence, you are killing those people. This is genocide. It's truly genocide. What has happened in Africa since Ghana 1957 through to South Africa 1994 and up to now, which is still happening throughout this continent, Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar, is nothing but genocide. Africans are being killed systematically. Where before the life expectancy was 120 years, it dropped to 60 in my parents' generation. And now it's dropping to around 40. I mean, we get 10-year-olds who are diabetic in this continent of land and honey, in this place of people who ate from the soil, in the agricultural basket of the world. We are getting diabetic children because now we are raising children from a hamburger than from maize. We have even genetically modified maize. I love maize. I'm so scared to eat maize in South Africa because I know that Monsanto globally has actually GMO'd, if there's such a word, maize to at least by 80%. So I'm scared of eating maize and I love maize. So no, it's a crime against humanity because it is not a mistake. It is systemic. The IMF and World Bank know exactly what they are doing because they are doing it on behalf of transnational and multinational Western corporations. China has joined, of course, their companies. They are also doing this on behalf of Western governments. So Europe remains rich and Africa is kept in this state of deprivation and poverty and dependency. It also perpetuates the phrase that I have coined, that white is right and white is might. The opposite is that black is wrong and black is unmighty, underdeveloped, weak. So yes, no, it is a crime against humanity.
Yeah. And the obvious right now in Kenya, especially, this has happened in Nigeria before and in Egypt, is state violence to enforce IMF World Bank policies. Ruto is not operating by himself. You keep saying Ruto must go, but Ruto has a master he's serving. So
Yes.
these police killings, that these white people come out and say, oh, we are against it. Shut your mouth. You caused it. Like, again, I try to control my emotion, Mama Khanyisile, but it is so annoying when things are so clear, yet the masses are following the wrong direction. It is so annoying when it is our lives at risk.
Yeah.
It is so annoying to wake up each day to struggle when it can simply be resolved like that if we just awaken. And do not ask me to control my emotion when it is life-threatening. And you all are following the life-threatening way, despite all these people who are giving you the evidence of wake up, Africa. It is so frustrating. So I'm not going to apologize for my emotion, but When populations protest the catastrophic consequences of currency deregulation and price hikes, Kenya, I would say they are met with brutal repression. If these white entities, since we're talking about white is might, right? If these colonialists, imperialists, neocolonialists really were for peace in Kenya, do you think it wouldn't happen right now? We have military bases. You think they wouldn't have arrested Ruto right now and his government criminals? If they were really for peace, Ruto should be in prison. Right? That government should have been taken down if really they were for peace. So I'm saying let's stop believing that this is what they mean. So let's talk about how to get out, Mama Khanyisile.
Yes, can we do that for the next?
We have, it's 1 year.
5-10 minutes, yeah.
Yes. Let's talk about how to get out.
Yeah.
How do we get out?
Well, we have been given templates on how to get out by various people. Nkrumah gave us a template, and actually, of all of Nkruma's writings, and Nkrumah wrote multiple areas, in multiple areas, whether education or health or infrastructure or the economy. He has given us a mass of wealth and knowledge on how to avoid neoliberalism. Remember, Kwame Nkrumah told us not to even go the IMF and World Bank route. He saw it coming. He said, don't take loans from there. Don't do that. So the template is there. Can people go and read Nkrumah, please? I have 2 books I bought in Ghana, Volume 1 and Volume 2, which you can't say contains all of his writings, but I mean, at least it's trying, because Nkrumah wrote a lot. Sankara gave us a template. Please go and read and check what Sankara did. Patrice Lumumba was giving us an alternative, but was not allowed to. Steve Biko gave us a template. This was a doctor who left making money out of a surgery, which is what most doctors were doing in his time, his colleagues, and went and started a cooperative, teaching people how to farm and eat healthy and to be proactively healthy than reactively, meaning wait until you are sick, then pop in a tablet. He was teaching people Ubuntu principles of living. We have currently now, I skipped through those ones because they are gone. I want to concentrate on the ones that are living, which is Colonel Goita of Mali, which is General Chiani of Niger, and Captain Traore of Burkina Faso. They are giving us the template. They are paying off the debt that they have as much as they can. They are not taking further debt. They are detaching their economies from neoliberalism. They are working with Russia and China and getting the best out of what they can get. They fully understand, like what Steve Biko said and Kwame Nkrumah said it also, that we are on our own. We don't need to look east or west in that war. We should exploit both sides for our own development. And that's what the 3 countries are doing. They are not saying, France, we won't talk to you, but they're saying, France, you will not dictate to us, and we shall expel you, your bases that are here, the military bases, because we don't need them. But we are not saying relations are sour. If you want to talk, we'll talk. But they are saying Russia, because you don't have a track record of having colonized a single African country, us as Burkina Faso, we shall work with you for you to beef up our military. Because that's another conversation we are not having. If you don't have a strong military, the West will talk to you and not with you. They are not scared of you, because they will invade you at 10 o'clock in the morning, and by evening they would have decapitated your president, and they will send that head to Washington. That's what they did with in Iraq. That's what they did with Libya. I mean, we've seen this happen. That's what they did in Afghanistan, although they didn't win there. That's what they did with Assad in Syria. So, I mean, this is the era in which we are, the 21st century era. So these 3 countries are saying we will beef up our militaries so that we are not talked to like little boys and girls. While we do that, we shall look at trying to beef up local industry. Our people should be gainfully employed, and our people should be gainful industrialists, and not open up our markets like neoliberalism through the IMF and World Bank are asking us to do, to deregulate and to deindustrialize by allowing forex and influx of foreign companies to come and squeeze out our local ones. So the third thing they are doing is we are investing in agriculture. I mean, we are an agricultural continent. So they're investing in agriculture for food security. So there is a way out, my sister Ndugu. People should just go and follow what these three leaders are doing and look at the advances that they are making. But remember that these three presidents are doing this at the risk of being shunned. They are currently shunned by the UN, and by default the AU and all our regional bodies. They are shunned by the OECD. They are shunned by the G20. They imagine you being told Captain Traore is attending the G20 in South Africa. Shall not happen. I don't think he has the intention, but I don't think the G20 actually would allow him to also. So the template is there. We can get out. The first thing we need to do is to stop taking these loans. The second thing we need to do is to come together as Africans under the AU and force the IMF and World Bank to scrap all the loans that have been taken from Africa. Given how much you have ripped out of us through slavery and colonization, reparations which we are refusing to pay, we don't owe anybody anything, they owe us. We are not owing the world is owing us. So we should all come together and agree to stop paying a cent in debt repayment from tomorrow. It's possible. If the whole continent takes that decision, what are they going to do? Bomb the whole continent? They can't do it. Will they withdraw all their companies from the whole continent? They can't do that. So we have muscle in numbers. We are over 1 billion people. Oladele always reminds me, 1.7, my sister, she will say, 1.7 billion. We can do that. Because when we do that, the money that we use out of every 1 Kenyan shilling, out of every 1 South African rand, out of every 1 naira, how much of that goes to servicing debt repayment? In most countries, it's over 50 cents of every 1 naira, of every 1 rand. That's servicing debt repayment, which means debt itself is another strangulation. So let's stop paying it, but let's stop taking more debt. Let's start industrializing, people. Let's get out of this forced deindustrialization. I am still crying for the textile industry of South Africa, truly, because it employed women also. So yeah, Nduku, I think I've shared enough. There's a lot that we can do, and we need to unite, because they play one country above the other. So Ghana can't do this alone. You see, I'm glad these 3 countries are doing it together. But even as 3 countries as they are, you can see how they are isolating and strangulating. And I think another thing we truly need to start doing as a continent is to start naming the price of our raw materials.
Yeah.
Because currently it's not decided here, it's decided elsewhere. How is someone buying something from you, but they're telling you at what cost they will buy it from you?
Doesn't make sense.
Our raw minerals and our natural resources in general start accumulating value after they leave our shores and after they leave our hands. I made the example with Starbucks. A cup of coffee at Starbucks makes more money than the actual coffee bean grower, because it accumulated value. Those coffee beans accumulate value once they leave Africa and they are turned into a finished product. I made the example with South African gold also earlier in the show. So I think at the top of my head, those are the things we need to start doing. But also, a big ask from me is we truly need to ban neoliberalism, people. Can we look at an alternative system? And Africans, we are lazy to think. When you tell this to economists, they tell you, oh, it will not work. It will not pass. Capitalism is in a system from 1400. That's a lie. Capitalism, yes, but not neoliberalism. Neoliberalism is as old as the end of the Second World War. Actually, before 1945, most economists who espoused neoliberalism were called anarchists, because critics looked at this and said, this is genocide. We cannot do this.
Yeah.
This cannot be an economic model. But capital is clever, because capital wants free market. They want capital to flow for the sake of capital. They found a way to pay off universities, to fund economic departments, and they sneaked it in, and they paid off governments. And by the time we blinked our eyes, voila, neoliberalism is actually the mode of capitalism. It is no longer Adam Smith's capitalism. So, yeah, I think I have articulated, by and large, a lot of the things that we can do to get out of this. And also, just an easy one, just support the Sahel countries, just support Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and start doing what they are doing. What is so difficult? What is so difficult in doing what they are doing? Turn your back on the West. I mean, the West does not owe you. You don't owe the West anything. The West owes you.
So as Mama Khanyisile was talking, we're taking everything she said and what I have been posting, and I'll quickly do it again. And thank you so much, my sister, always my warrior sister, always great to sit with you, and to have you speak to our people, to break it down in a simple way that they can understand. But as we were having discussion, I reached out to ChatGPT, that is constructed by the Mzungu, by the way, so that you can understand that this is not just this inferior Black person's opinion. For those of you who believe we are inferior, this is the Mzungu's opinion through ChatGPT. And by the way, what AI is not an intelligent tool. AI is a tool that collects from all the data that's available on the internet. There's nothing intelligent about AI. AI is just a vacuum. That's what AI is. And so when you tell it, AI, could you please vacuum this for me and give me the results? It goes and gives you the result. There's nothing intelligent. AI does not have a brain. AI cannot think. So for all of you walking around talking about AI intelligent, these white people and their language, Mama Khanyisile, it's ridiculous. There's nothing intelligent about a tool that you're telling, go to the records of all the data that has been collected in history and give me this result. All it's doing is that, going to the record of all the data that has been collected and giving you a result. AI, when it gives you images, is going to the record of images that it understands from all the records that you, the intelligent human being, have put on the internet, and then constructs something. AI is so stupid and unintelligent that sometimes when you ask for image, the nose is here, or there's no nose. So you have to remind AI, go back to the closet where you got this and give me a nose that is human, because AI is that dumb.
Yeah.
So quickly, number one, unify, right? Unify politically and economically. And then Mama Khanyisile, you can comment on them when we are done. Unify politically and economically, a federated Africa. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, and I'll go and figure out the book as Mama Khanyisile is talking when I'm done with this, Sheikh Anta Diop wrote a book and he gave 15 solutions. He gave 15 ways to get out. But here we go. This is AI that's giving us this. And I'm sure part of this is that it took it from Sheikh Anta Diop's records online. So here we go. Unify politically. This is a collection of all Black people, or all people who have the interest of liberating Black people on the database that is the internet, have written. AI now collected it and gave us this. Unify politically and economically, a federated Africa. Exit the IMF, the World Bank system. ChatGPT said that. Yes. Exit the IMF, World Bank system.
Yes.
I want you all to hear from it, because you all think we're playing over here, and apparently it's not possible. But ChatGPT said that, for those of you who believe it's intelligent. Number 3, control and socialize natural resources.
Yes.
I'm just saying. Number 4, build a self-sufficient Afro-industrial economy. This is all from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Number 5, establish a pan-African communication and cultural network.
Yes.
Number 6, form a revolutionary leadership model with collective safeguards. Collective, what does that mean? That leadership model ensures the well-being of the collective, and there are safeguards to ensure that they do not stray from that. Number 7, form a continental defense alliance, unified Pan-African military. That's supposed to be a D, not a S. Unified Pan-African military.
Can I just ask that
Yes.
number 7 becomes a topic on Kumbukeni?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have to. This interests me as a former guerrilla, as the first female admiral. And the only language the West understands is military language.
Malcolm said it. Malcolm
yeah.
X said it. They only understand one language. You cannot. This is again logic. You cannot fight a force that is violent with non-violence. Because you all want to use pretty words, but if you're facing violence, you have to defend yourself with violence. Even in their own legal system, they tell you your defense must match the threat. Even in their own legal system, they tell you your defense must match the threat. For example, I can't be out here shooting someone who was throwing stones at me. I will go to prison because my defense did not match the threat. But if someone is shooting at me, I can shoot back. And those of you who live in Florida understand this very well because it happens there regularly. All right. Number 8, cyber defense and intelligence counter operations. This is ChatGPT telling you the solutions of getting out Africans. Mass political education and revolutionary preparedness. I'm just saying, sometimes on Khanyisile, I laugh. Number 10, leverage the African diaspora as a strategic asset.
I really need to go shortly. I suggest that you put these in a template and then we deal with them individually. But each time we deal with them, we tell them we are on number 4. These were the first 3.
Yeah.
We give a summary each time and then we go on that 4th one. Because yes, ChatGPT is not ours, but they've done a very good job here.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we'll do that. But quickly, I'll say this last one and then what he said, and then give your last words and we can close out. So, develop alternative global alliances. You were talking about the relationship with China and Russia, that it's a strategic relationship, right? And then lastly, ChatGPT has this.
My sister, I know I'm the one who needs to go because I have a meeting
now.
Oh,
okay. All right. Okay. Then Mama Khanyisile.
I know that I'm the one who needs to go because I have a meeting in a minute, but still, we have to comment on that last one. Alternative global alliances. I have a question, my sister. And I'm sure you don't have an answer. Who asked Africans not to have a relationship with North Korea? What has North Korea ever done to any African? What?
Because we believe them Zungu. We believe them Zungu.
North Korea as a single country can help a whole continent of 1.7 billion people to survive militarily. So what beef do we have with North Korea? I love North Koreans. I will say this out on air. I love North Korea. And I love them because they don't take any nonsense, any Mzungu's nonsense.
This is my response, Mama Khanyisile. That's my response. And then lastly, ChatGPT has these wise words to say to us. Africa will not be free through elections, conferences, or policy tweaks. Freedom must be seized by a united people, defended by force, and rooted in African values. All that.
I need you to send me this, by the way.
I will send it to you. All of this from ChatGPT.
Imagine that.
Yeah. All right, my dear.
I'm actually speechless. Because when we say it, they are like, no, these are the angry black women. No,
this is ChatGPT. So let's see you all call ChatGPT angry black woman.
Wow.
A collection of all the data that has existed in the internet. These are the results of how Africa gets out.
Wow.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much. Be blessed. Have a good meeting.
We thank our ancestors. Glory
Be
goes to them.
well, all my fellow wana Ubuntu. Kila laheri. Let's find joy where we can find it, but let's not stop the fight. I wish you all well. Asanteni.